Position. Performances are necessary for secondary choral ensembles and should be the priority throughout rehearsal. Most educators like to compare the hottest trends in education to a pendulum swinging back and forth. The pendulum currently is swinging towards high academic achievement shown through rigorous assessment. It makes sense then to include a musical ensemble's performance in this category. Students are taught various mathematical concepts over a period of weeks or months, and then given a test on this material to have their knowledge measured and assessed. If they get everything correct, they receive a 100% on their test. If they don't get everything correct, they may receive an 85 or 90% for their grade. Choral ensembles can be assessed the same way. A choral teacher, like a mathematics teacher, teaches specific content, or in this case repertoire, over a period of time, and then has the students perform this repertoire for assessment on this content. A choral director has to think about the singer's quality of work. If they sing all of their notes 100% correct, their performance will be solid and most likely leave the audience wanting more. If they only get some of the notes, say 85 to 90% of the notes, where does that leave the final performance? Where does the audience sit after hearing that? It seems fitting then that the choral educator should be thinking about the performance frequently throughout these rehearsals. When students are to be assessed, it is important for them to have goals or objectives so that they understand there's a purpose for their hard work and dedication. If students are given quite a few pieces of music with no performance date in sight, they may feel overwhelmed and find the amount of work daunting at best. On the flip side, they may lack motivation because there's no pressure or demand to perform these pieces. For example, if students are given 5 pieces in the beginning of October for a December concert, they now have a goal in sight. It's even better if a teacher can provide a rehearsal schedule for a few weeks showing which pieces, measure numbers, sections will be covered on which day. If there's a rehearsal schedule put into place, that's a successful tool that will help prepare adequately for the assessment or performance. Scores or placement at a festival may also be motivating for students. Literature on this topic mentions that students, even at the youngest of ages, are strongly influenced by scores and competitions. Last year, my junior high choir had 2 assessments, one which was just a personal assessment on their own, the other one where they were competing against other junior high choirs. Their motivation was greater knowing they were competing against other students. While students may also enjoy performing for the sake of friendly competition, it's important to note that the pride and community that develops when performing. Choir is established similarly to a sport, where each section must work together to meet a common goal, whether it be intonation, correct vowel placement, or just something as simple as correct pitches. When students perform well, a natural confidence develops individually and as a whole. These students may also be recognized by their peers outside of choir, that they're confident students, and that will in turn fill them with even more pride. Performances are also a great tool for recruitment. Acceptance and success is huge for secondary students, so if they can join a club or activity that promotes these feelings and actions, then more students may want to participate in the choir. They may also want to perform at lower buildings. Younger students look up to secondary students, and if they see these students singing confidently and enthusiastic, they'll want to join choir when they're older. Finally, it is the younger students that should see these students perform, but also the parents, school administration, and community. Unfortunately, it's one of the first subjects to be cut when there's lack of funding. But if the community sees music performed in a positive light, it's going to be harder to justify cutting the program. Everybody in a school district wants to see their students succeed. And by creating this pride, everyone is winning. If students are able to perform choral repertoire for an audience that's filled with supportive parents, administration, and members of the community, the reward becomes even greater after a successful performance. In summary, performances are essential to any ensemble, but essentially the choral ensemble, because it allows students to create goals, develop pride and identity, and create a support system throughout the community. Position. Performances are not necessary at the secondary level and should not be the main priority of the choral conductors when rehearsing an ensemble. Education is sometimes treated like the banking system. If we invest the time or money, we expect results. The majority of students at the secondary level put so much pressure on themselves to take as many courses as possible and participate in as many clubs and sports as possible in the hopes of building a strong resume that will earn them a glance from their dream college or university. While test scores and overall grades may impact a student's success post-secondary education, do performances help prepare them, or is it just one more item on their to-do list? When a performance is set on the calendar, there is not much else on the mind but that performance. Expectations need to be met by the teacher and the students, respectively. The teacher feels pressure to perform well due to past performances by previous teachers. They are also aware that every performance contains an audience filled with proud and supportive parents, demanding administrators, and curious community members and colleagues. Students feel the pressure as well when it comes to time management. These students participate in sports, study rigorously for advanced placement courses, apply to colleges, and work a part-time job, while also trying to find time for performances in the community. On top of that, his or her choral teacher is expecting several pieces to be memorized. All of a sudden, choir rehearsal agendas have been made for the teacher and student. Rehearse the music for the performance. As a result of this agenda, teachers will feel that they do not have time to teach other musical content, such as music theory, history, solfege, notation, and so forth, because every minute is precious in preparing for that performance. Choral teachers may also spend less time on the health and wellness of the students. Vocal health is essential in the secondary choral setting. Teachers may not want to spend the time educating students on correct vocal health, posture, projection, and so forth if they're only concerned with the correct notes of the piece. After all, is that not what the audience will hear? A performance may also hinder a choral teacher's rehearsal technique. If a choir is performance-driven, the rehearsal may be spent banging out notes on the piano, with the director constantly informing the choir on what needs to be fixed. Time is not spent internalizing and interpreting a piece of music, but rather learning notes, memorizing, and repeating the process over and over again from one performance to another. If students do not learn to take on a piece of music as their own, then what joy will they feel when they perform it anyway? This may also leave students feeling anxious. Research has shown that students do in fact feel anxious when performing. However, this is more so when they are performing solo than in an ensemble. Anxiety may also be more pertinent if students are uncomfortable with the conductor or if the conductor is showing signs of anxiety. Repertoire selection may also be restricted depending on the season of the performance, as well as the expectations set by the school district. When programming a winter concert, teachers must be careful in choosing repertoire, respecting several cultures and religions. Therefore, is the repertoire being chosen based on an educational goal for the choir? Or is it because that winter program needed a Hebrew song to make sure we were respecting the Jewish faith? Diversity in literature is more important for all choirs, but teachers may find themselves sacrificing quality choral repertoire for repertoire that will appeal to the public. Teachers may find that choosing repertoire could be an easier process if outside opinions didn't matter. Teachers may also be weary of traditions and rituals when it comes to performing. For example, a teacher taking over a choral program that was run by the same educator for over 40 years may find that some traditions have been established and not for the better. Should a choir of, let's say, 40 voices, 12 of which were men, sing the Hallelujah chorus from Handel's Messiah with the school's alumni because that was the tradition for over 20 years? Should this be done even though it means sacrificing the quality of music? Sometimes students and teachers get so wrapped up in the past that the quality of the music no longer matters. This can be a dangerous mindset for choirs in the long run. Lastly, I would like you to picture a choir classroom where no performance is required. The atmosphere would be more relaxed for the teacher and the students. All parties would be able to focus on one thing, making music for the joy of it. Teachers would not feel stressed about outside expectations, and students would not be concerned with missing other activities or losing time on other academic requirements. Students and teacher could come together every day and sing repertoire that evokes emotion and purpose. I wonder if students' overall approach to singing would change if the pressure of performing was eliminated. It's interesting to me that performances can be also seen as not important for the choir student, but my main concern is what then do the students have in terms of goals? What are they working towards? If students don't have motivation or purpose, why do they want to be in that class? If not just for social reasons. You know, we quite often fight already choir issues with students wanting to be with their friends. But yet if we take away then the motivation or the goal, their purpose, why are they in this class? Couldn't we then run into trouble with them not respecting the class itself? We also should be weary about community support, parent support, administration support. If parents don't see trips, they don't see competitions, they don't see the opportunities for their child, there's a possibility that they pull them from that class because they like to see what are the end goals for their child, what are they getting out of that class, especially an elective. They don't have to take choir. So if there's no benefits to that class, no outside experiences, no learning experiences personally, what purpose do they have to be enrolled in the class? I think we also have to think about funding. As an administrator that comes to a choir concert, so amazed and inspired by a concert, possibly going to come to that teacher's classroom and say, that was a wonderful performance. I would love to do something for the choir. I noticed the robes that you were wearing were looking a little ratty. Can I help you start fundraising? Can I help you start supplying financially funds to help you cover new robes? Or, hey, I noticed that the piano on the stage is looking a little beat up these days. What can we do to fix it? By giving them something to realize that this is the good that we are providing for our students in the community will also help them keep supporting the arts in our music program. Thirdly, we need to think about the stress and anxiety. That's a real life situation. Students need to be taught deadlines, expectations, commitments. Relaxation without a performance, is that going to match the same joy as working on an extremely challenging choral work and succeeding and just being amazing in the performance? Food for thought. I definitely understand those benefits of performing for the community, but I think we also need to take a step back and think about what we're missing when our students are so performance-driven. Think about music literacy. This is something that takes a long time to build in choir, establishing, including how they're reading the music, how are they approaching each piece. Is it the same way each time? Well, it could be if you're so performance-driven, it's bang, note, bang, note, bang, note, sing it back, sing it back. But by teaching students how to approach a piece of music is an extremely important skill. How to go through and read that, how to hear it internally, is just a huge skill that I think can easily be overlooked if we are just so driven by our performances. We also have to be weary that we are not falling into traditions or rituals. Standard performances every year influence our repertoire choice. Again, it's a winter concert, so all the pieces I pick must be about winter or Christmas or other cultural holidays celebrated that time of year, because that's what's expected. We have to worry about that. We should also then be careful, this has always been done. This tradition always happens. We always perform the seniors, this end of the year song, because that's what we do. Okay, this year we have 3 seniors, 2 of which don't really hold pitch well, aren't going to perform well. But it's a tradition. We need to be weary of that. And finally, we talk about the scores and students being motivated based on their scores when they go out and compete. Healthy competition is good, and it does help motivate and drive students. But are the students driven to perform at their best, or are they driven to really reach that high score? Are they actually thinking about, every time we perform a piece should be done with musicality, feeling, emotion? But if we're just so worried about getting that high score, is there any feeling being put into it, or is it thought by thought by thought, I nailed that right note, I placed my dynamics in there, oh good, crescendo. Sometimes we need to be weary about scores motivating the students over the music itself. I 100% agree that performances may be overwhelming at times for students. But it's important that we remember performing is good. It's beneficial, especially when there is a goal in sight for students. Down the road, when they have post-secondary occupations of some kind, all jobs have some kind of performance opportunity. If they're in sales, they're definitely performance-driven. If they are top executives in a business, a teacher, they're going to need to talk and present in front of people, just like choirs do for audiences. If you're sitting behind a desk on a computer, you're going to have deadlines. Your boss is going to want expectations to be met. And so performances are good to teach these students. We have deadlines, we need to meet them. If we remember that a planned rehearsal and appropriately chosen repertoire together will help challenge students so that they may still have literacy, sight reading, musicality, and several other musical topics covered in class. Again, with thoughtful rehearsal technique and thoughtful repertoire choice. So in summary, successful performances allow students to showcase their hard work and dedication, which therefore is going to allow the community, parents, and administration, even fellow students, to give back and support these young musicians. Thank you. And I do appreciate the new insight I have on performances and how they can be driven positively to help students succeed. However, I think we have to remember that these performances are still driving the choir rehearsal. What should really be driving the choir rehearsal is music education. Expectations from these previous performances, our predecessors, the season of performances, all of a sudden is going to restrict us on what we're teaching our students, how often we're teaching our students. Do we really feel like we can be sharing and completing sight reading exercises every day in class? What about coming closer to a concert? Probably not. We just need to be weary that performances have so much pressure that it may blind us to quality. And again, for example, think about a concert program where the expectation is that there must be 8 pieces on this program. Do you want 8 pieces performed, leaving the students feeling, okay? Or do you want the students performing 5 or 6 pieces and ending the concert with a, yes, I nailed that? Imagine how students can breathe knowing that they can come to class learning for the sake of learning choral music, especially, then coming to class learning because the performance dictated that learning. Thank you.